I-4 corridor is considered crucial to each presidential election, but maybe you're not as familiar with Florida's high-tech corridor. It includes 20,000 companies in 10 sectors around the state. It has more than $1 billion impact in this 23-county region we're talking about. So our guest today, Congressman Dan Webster, who sparked the high-tech corridor, former Speaker of the House Tom Feeney from the Associated Industries of Florida, and Dr. Judy Genshaft, President of the University of South Florida, all of whom have a stake in this. Welcome to you all and good morning. Welcome to Front Row Tampa Bay. Congressman, I want to start with you. You were in the legislature, 1996, and you had, this shouldn't surprise anyone, because I did a little homework, and you graduated as an engineer from Georgia Tech. All right, so you have a technology background to start with. But I think back to 1996, I don't think we had our first home computer back then. We were on the cusp of it. What triggered this in your mind? Why do we need to get in the game and advance technology? We've always had the Kennedy Space Center here, but in a broader sense.
Well, I think, first of all, we had three legs to our economic stool. That was agriculture, construction, and tourism. And a fourth leg sounded great. And we began talking about it, talked to Dr. Hitt, who was president of the University of Central Florida. He coupled up with Betty Castor, who was at that time president of the University of South Florida. And then Tony Jennings, who was president of the Senate. I was Speaker of the House at the time. And we just said, let's have a meeting. And we had this meeting at the SunTrust building in Orlando and said, you know, that we've sort of been in competition with each other between Tampa and Orlando, USF, UCF, and why not? Why not? And so we thought if we could just each give up a little bit of our kingdoms, push it down a little bit, the state would provide the funding for possibly some opportunities for universities to actually offer courses that would fit the needs of the industry along a particular corridor like I-4 and make it the high-tech corridor. And then they would hire them and there would be opportunities for jobs, economic growth, and so forth. It was awesome. It worked out. Yeah,
Mr. Feeney, you were in the legislature at that time, and you were obviously very involved and passionate about this. And I know in your current capacity, working with industry, you want to see more students pursue math, science, engineering at the college level, don't you?
Yes, and there's a huge skills gap in America where we have STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math, because we know we can place all of those students that get a good background, whether it's at the University of South Florida, University of Central Florida, University of Florida. But people that come out with skills in math and science or a technical degree are in great demand. And so we read about high unemployment rates, but there is an undercapacity in terms of employing people in these fields. The vision that President Hitt and Betty Castor, now President Genshaft, Dan Webster put together was extraordinary. But what was really amazing is the synergy, bringing the federal government, the state government, academics world, the private sector. We now will have something on the order, if you include Medical City, which will in and of itself produce some 30,000 jobs. There'll be 70 or 80,000 people in high-paid, high-compensated jobs today that probably wouldn't be there if it hadn't been for vision and a lot of work.
Dr. Genshaft, when you became president at USF in 2000, right? So at that time, the High-Tech Corridor Council was 4 years old. And so you've seen it grow from that time. And first of all, is that part of what attracted you to see USF's position?
One of the features that I think are so important for presidents of universities, particularly if you're in an urban or metropolitan area, is to partner with companies, because we're all about making life better for Americans at being a public university. Economic development is huge. It's just one of the hallmarks that I believe in. So it was very important, and I want to give kudos to both the Congress people, because this was a genius stroke to have the partnerships that are developed through the high-tech corridor.
Explain how it works from an academic standpoint, and it's USF, it's UCF, and it's the University of Florida within the corridor. Right. So who pursues whom? How does that work?
We all work together.
Yeah.
We all work together, and companies usually come in. They're attracted by some of our researchers, and for example, one of our researchers early on worked with us, then moved off to New York, and because of the corridor decided to come back and establish his company here, IRX, and it's a huge success. He came back because of Florida Blood Services and the kinds of researchers that we had right here in the Tampa Bay area. But the same story is true for University of Florida. The same story is true for University of Central Florida.
In fact, Congressman, I wanted to ask you about near UCF. I'm not sure that it's part of, you can clarify this for me. Florida Interactive Entertainment Institute, did I get that right? It's near UCF.
It is.
Yeah. And I recall being there some 10 years ago at least. And on the face of it, you would say it is all about entertainment, it's about creating video games, so on and so forth. But in fact, there are applications for military, perhaps even police, in the simulation field, correct?
Yes, there is, and the whole simulation field is just expanding leaps and bounds, and it is a great way to save money for the military. They don't have to expend all kinds of money on using vehicles and ammunition, other things for training, and you can use it for medical training to so forth. The new VA hospital is going to have a segment of it for training through simulation, training the new medical for new medical procedures in combat situations. So
Yeah,
it's
they
pretty
use
awesome.
virtual reality in some cases.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a fascinating stuff. Congressman, talk about I'll call you Congressman. You've been a Congressman. Mr. Speaker, you both have. Tell me about the diversity within the high-tech corridor.
Yeah, so it's really extraordinary. Actually, you were mentioning the simulation area. Some $5.5 billion is procured by the federal government to all 5 branches of the military out of the Central Florida area. Floridians don't know a whole lot about the modeling and simulation defense industry because much of it is either secret or proprietary information. But that information, as you said, Frank, has bled over into the virtual gaming world, and they now work together to complement one another. Ultimately, that is leading to some incredible simulation in the fields of biomedicine and medical treatment. Every soldier that goes overseas today actually gets simulated training in healthcare. We've increased the survival rate of our men and women in the field dramatically because of this training. So when you think about from NASA over in the Far East Coast to MacDill to all of the synergies up and down the I-4 high-tech corridor, there's an extraordinary amount of diversity. One thing that I learned is, as Speaker then Webster and some others, including myself, were putting together this vision. We had no idea where it would lead. But in a lot of businesses, you really don't want a lot of your competitors. If you're selling widgets on the corner store, you don't want necessarily 5 other widget stores. When it comes to high-tech, high-paid, high-skilled jobs, clusters are terrific. Every company wants to be located near their other companies so that they can exchange workforces, work with the academic world. It's been a terrific success.
Let's speak to go ahead, Dr.
I was
Kessler.
just going to say, many times you'll find universities doing the same thing or researching the same projects, but you'll really see very noted differences of strength in the University of Central Florida from the University of South Florida from UF. And you'll see the companies cluster around each university depending on their strength. And I'll give one example. Our marine sciences is particularly strong with our port very close by and our research vessels. So you saw the Stanford Research Institute, SRI, come and be a part of that, where you find others will gravitate toward UF for their particular strengths or UCF for their strengths, like we just heard about simulation. So it's worked out very, very well. And included in the high-tech corridor also are community colleges.
Ah, okay.
Yes.
So Hillsborough Community College is within the corridor,
It's within,
obviously.
right.
St. Pete College,
Right.
yes. I should explain the corridor is not your conventional like I-4 like this. It's pretty wide from coast to coast.
Some 23 counties are included in it.
Right.
And as you said, roughly 20,000 companies directly connected.
For those of us watching from around the country, around the world, hopefully, why is this the great place to do business? Why should they come here? What's the benefit of being here? Academic support, the partnership with academics, certainly, and government support, yes? Could you elaborate?
Well, I think also it's not just those two, but also we have a low tax rate, we have a great climate, and we love this place. It builds itself, it attracts people to it, and this is a great place to start not only a high-tech company, but any company.
The
And
president.
skilled workforce.
Let's speak about
Working
that.
very closely with companies. Now it's all about partnerships, and companies will tell us the kind of job market that they'd like to see growing, and we'll work with them. We'll work with them.
Your counterpart at the University of Central Florida,
Yes.
Dr. John Hitt, could not be here this morning, but Kathy had a chance to speak with him earlier and asked a couple of questions. First of all, where do you see the corridor now compared to when it was founded in 1996, and where do you see it at 25?
Thanks, Kathy, for inviting me to join you from Orlando. Though I can't be in Tampa today, I wouldn't miss this opportunity to talk about the Florida High-Tech Corridor Council. I don't need a crystal ball to know that the future of the corridor is bright. The synergy that exists among our 3 state universities, 14 state colleges, and more than 20 economic development agencies virtually assures continued success for the Corridor Council in the coming years. Companies want to work with the Corridor Council because they've come to see our faculty members and our graduate students as extensions of their own teams. Our faculty members conduct research that yields new knowledge, and right behind them are teams of colleagues and students who apply that knowledge to solve problems facing our region's businesses and industries. Florida is serious about growing its high-tech economy, and the Matching Grants Research Program provides STEM experiences for our students and real-world technology solutions for our clients. In fact, the Corridor Council has become an engine for delivering high-tech answers and creating high-tech jobs. If past performance is the best predictor of future performance, then the phenomenal success of our efforts in the first 16 years guarantees even greater achievements in the future. I predict that we will double the economic activity produced by the Corridor Council, and in the coming decade, the Florida High-Tech Corridor Council and its company partners will have a $2 billion impact on our Florida economy. I'm sure you have lots of politicking to do in Tampa, not to mention oysters and shrimp to sample. So thanks for asking me to participate in this discussion, and enjoy the convention.
UCF, and we thank him for joining us. One more question, Congressman, and that deals with this corridor as really not just a region, a super region. Is that an appropriate description?
That is a great description. And who would have known from that little meeting we had? I certainly could not have figured out
Oh, come on, you knew.
all this was going to happen. The leadership and so forth, and continuing with the current president, and it's been awesome. They've taken it from this little idea into a big thing that's included now at the University of Florida. It's an opportunity to be, and it is a picture that ought to be modeled all over the country.
And those are the numbers that tell the story. 20,000 active companies. Unbelievable. Dr. Genschaft, Congressman Webster, Mr. Feeney, thank you all for joining us. Well, technology has certainly played a vital role in improving the quality of our health care as well. Let's go over to Kathy.